review of what Fire Standards Board does, and the Fire Standards Board's review for 2023-2024 in regard to the national work being undertaken. And also I would say is we utilise the standards are mandatory, they are very much guidance and reports self-evidently to be an outstanding fire and rescue service. You would want to reflect on the content of the standards and work towards them to be able to kind of provide assurance. And equally, whilst the HMI to the inspectors would suggest they will show cognizance to, they are not driven by assessing us against those standards. I think their position would be services who are delivering against those standards in a highly professional and competent manner will score well in any inspection regime. So just so you can remember the cognizance of that. I'm sure I'll probably pause at that point if there's anything further to add, other than the fact that we're making good progress towards all 17 standards as are currently circulated by the Fire Standards Board, and we'll work towards the other two once released. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Just one, Phil, page 42, number 8, demonstrate inclusivity by recognising diversity of its community. Is that just because the information isn't in that is Amber?
I suppose we're going to move on to a report that's a part of this agenda, which talks about the quality diversity and inclusion action plan. And it's a self-assessment tool, the implementation tool, so it's where we perceive ourselves to be, where we want to be aspirationally. And so we have a lot of information that's out there in relation to our communities. We have that information available on our portal under the auspices and in our communities. And equally we utilise that information, that intelligence in our application of our community risk management plan, but also our functional plans and our station plans to really get into the heart of our communities. But what you will see in a slight amendment to one of the objectives around quality, diversity, inclusion is a real focusing on cultural competence. And I suppose that's a reflection of that. So what was saying there is, if we can meet the Equalities Act, we know what's responsibility, we know what the processy parts of it, we know what the functional bits and the expectations on us are. But we really want to get into the heart of our communities, and we were very effective at that, to be fair, to fully comprehend and understand what's it like to live in certain parts of Merseyside, what it's like to be from a particular ethnic group, what it's like to be, if I use gender, what's it like to be female working in a particular parts of the service maybe. So we know there's further development around our cultural competence, not necessarily as an authority, as a service, but in its totality, the whole organisation, and a really thorough understanding of what Merseyside is like and what it's like to live in Merseyside and to be on the receiving end of our services. And that's where we think there's a bit more work to be done, and certainly to the reflection of the HMI's inspection of Merseyside too.
That's great, thank you.
So,
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, through you, Chair. So yeah, really impressive, lots of green. I know the Chief's a perfectionist though, so I'm just I'm not nitpicking really. So I'm just looking at there's a bit more yellow on communications and engagement section, which is detailed page 53. It does say that you're kind of well resourced in that area. Just wondering, yeah, just out of interest, what the reasons might be for this, a bit more yellow and red in that section, and whether we could help as a committee in any of that.
Absolutely. The reason why that was more yellow than the others, it's only just increased. And that's not suggesting that we wouldn't have all these things in place, but certainly it's for the areas of focus. We would pick up the communications and engagement standard, and then we would assess that against where we think we are currently at. And so it's very early days in moving towards the turn them from amber to green. But you'll equally see a couple of reds in there. And if we're focusing on the reds rather than the ambers in the first instance. So use established behavioural science methods to develop interventions and influence positive behavioural change. And some of that stuff is quite expensive if Merseyside has to do that independently of anyone else. And there is work done on a national level to assist services understand what shapes an individual behaviour in events of a fire and why fires occur and so on and so forth. So we would draw on some of the national behavioural science to support some of the things that we would do, and some of that stuff is emerging nationally as well. So there's a kind of a focus on getting some of that stuff right nationally, so we don't do it 43, 44 times, because whilst we are slightly different in Merseyside, behavioural parts of why people take risk and other people don't is something which is probably a reflection nationally as well. So we would draw on some of the national work there, and we just haven't got to that level of understanding yet. And then the other one, which talks about professionalisation of the communications engagement functions by investigating in the continued professional development through membership of a recognised professional body. Again, we probably just haven't established what that professional body looks like. I'm not sure the people who wrote the standard fully understood what they were expecting services to do at that particular point. So we are taking that away to go and say, well, how would we and which professional body would attach ourselves to? Once we've done that, that would quickly turn from red to green rather than go through a phase of amendment, to be fair. So it's early into the work around the communications and engagement standard.
Thank you.
Councillor Ward.
Just touching on that same point, I was unsure whether that was in respect of the community and changing the community, or whether it was behaviour change of staff. But
I think it's directed at the community, behaviour change within the community. But there's a few bits in amongst all, which talks about our engagement with our communities, and you will never in the process of doing a community management plan. We have ways to effectively gather people's views and opinions in there. I think one of the things that again came back from the inspectors, and in the nicest possible way we will address over the course of this community risk management plan, is we go to public consultation, we involve ourselves in public engagement, and then we develop our plans, and then we then take the next 3 years or so delivering against those plans. And what the inspector said is it would be nice to keep checking in with the communities of Merseyside, as are they still happy with the plans, are they still happy with the progress? And we will do that over the course of this particular CRMP, which again will address some of those answers that are contained within this particular stuff.
I misunderstood it when I first read it. I thought it was staff behaviour and cultural stuff, but obviously it's the community.
Yeah, it's more around how are we influence people's driving habits, how we influence people's cooking habits, smoking habits, and so on and so forth to facilitate cultural behaviour change within our communities as much as within our own service. That's another part of a different kind of staff piece of work.
To some extent, our own experiences, firefighters and staff, but we are out to advert at the moment for some professionals to come in to give us that professional lead. So it's going to be their job, and they may say, right, well, this is the professional body that is the lead here, and I'd like to join that. And we should be saying, and it is that we're on a journey. In fact, nationally, we believe we're ahead of the journey that's taking place behind us. And part of our job also, we're a metropolitan. We're funded a little more than some of the smaller authorities. Our job is to employ the good staff who will give the good advice, who will lead the service, not just Merseyside, but we will be able to give a lead to the rest of the service in the country as well. That's our aspiration.
Thanks, Chair. I've got a number of questions. I'll try and be as brief as I possibly can. First of all, we welcome the fact that we're now going to have standards, national standards. It's just not forced that they're not going to be mandatory. It's not going to be supported, funded, financed by the government. And it's something that could be a bit of ambiguity where we need to ensure that all fire and rescue authorities across the whole of the country actually sign up to this and take part in it, because I think it's in everyone's best interest for the service and the communities and everything that we serve. But I think that's more of a political issue than obviously one that I want you to respond to. But it is disappointing that the government didn't take it on board to fully have it a mandatory requirement. like it was here many years ago. But the questions I have is, what role did the service take as regards to boards? Because of our lead as the National Museums, did we have any involvement in developing these, or was it just mainly for the fire service firefighters?
No, so in response, so there's a number of standards that have been developed. The board is independent of the fire and rescue service in its kind of in its creation, but what it seeks to draw on, and it actually references it in its own documentation. The standards are created for services, by services, and you draw on that subject matter expertise to be able to develop them. And so if I kind of went through the 70 or so that are live, rather than just contributing to, we probably led on the development of at least 3 or 4 of them. So, you look at the ones related to certainly national resilience, emergency preparedness and so on and so forth. You look at some of the stuff that's being developed around safeguarding and so on. Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service and officers within Merseyside being at the vanguard of the creation of those standards. Equally, prevention being an example of that. We aren't, we don't lead on the development of all of them. You would understand that. There's other services and other organisations who may be better equipped on certain aspects of it, but what we would do is contribute to them. And just given some of the roles that we fulfil nationally in regards to my vice chair role and so on and so forth, then we ultimately have a significant amount to sign off around their suitability in the first instance for implementation in the longer term.
So the board was established about 4 or 5 years ago by the Home Office. The LGA sector were offered 1 seat, and the FSMC appointed that person who feeds back. I'm going down tomorrow, and they will feed back on what's happening in the national standards. There's one officer from the Chiefs Council as well, and the rest are academics. It's a bit of a strange setup, isn't it?
But it's good to know that we actually did have some involvement in it, because I think it's important, especially when we work at the NSA, because of national resilience, so we want that to fall through at every step of the way, building up stage. Regarding the 17 standards themselves, obviously the information that we've got on the board, there's a lot of information behind that. There's probably a lot of appendices on how it's operated, how it's delivered, and how it's been managed. But do any of those policies then need to be adopted formally by the authority, or is it just
so it depends on the review of the standard. So certainly if we ever have to come from a standard start here in Merseyside, are we? So some of the if you look at prevention, in the nicest possible way, the prevention standard came out and automatically taken green, right, because of the work that's been done to date. However, in utilising that implementation toolkit and looking at areas where we are showing as amber or red, if on occasion there's something that we haven't got in place that we should have in place, policy decision on the argument started with something that we would come back. Or if it's not, it's a lower level tactical or operational matter, then we would just work with the respective area manager or director of the service to implement the change and introduce it back into the service.
One of the things I was thinking about is obviously we've got the policy diversity insurance on the agenda, but the code of ethics, obviously the detail of that, but does that stuff that you think it might be worthwhile coming to the authority or?
Yeah, and maybe just a little bit before you're giving, let's just kind of comments around the introduction of the standard.
It came to the authority, it did come to the authority, and scrutiny as well.
Yeah, so notwithstanding that, it has been through, and the members are aware of the standard and signed off on the report, albeit on our standard, it's the national standard. And more than happy for there's a good focus to be applied that to the scrutiny arrangements if that's not what.
The FSMC view on this is we will be following the Nolan principles, and we felt that this code of ethics, not ethics, was duplication for members, different for officers, duplication for members, and not as required. Some of this was the inspectorate's police focus in our view. But it was 2 or 3 years ago, more than that actually.
So you know, throughout the reports, it says about a single point of contact or the adoption of a responsible person. Are we able to dedicate the team then to sort of focus on this to make sure that we do?
Yeah, so, you know, they all sit on the debt in regards to the governance view. But what happens is, a new standard will be released, it's received into the service by Deb's team, depends on what that standard is. If it's an out community management plan, then it would stick with Deb, and she would start to, well, surface it with the strategic leadership team. We would know that the standard's being released, and then Deb would go away and do that kind of review of the standard, and any gaps that were forthcoming, and then she would work towards that, unless there was issues which were required a more strategic perspective on that, or budget being allocated to support that delivery of that. To take that away, and then once the standard has been signed off and it's moved from red, amber to green, then we would bring the standard back and being now signed off against. When you also recognise that actually things move on, and you have to keep them under constant review, hence the reason why this updating members, irrespective of whether prevention, set up protection is green now, if something was to change, circumstances will change, we might flip to one of those areas being amber. And so it's important that on an annual basis we bring back updated members around our progress towards those standards. So there's an internal officer governance arrangement which that lies with the strategic management team, but divested to the area manager and the directors to be able to discharge based on the makeup and the nature of that. But if you look at ones like leading the service in the nicest possible way, Deb will bring the leading service once a week, to Nick, to Dave. And we would look at the kind of the attainment of that standard too. So yes, it's officer governance, and then this is ultimately designed on by the authority in regards to oversight of the arrangements that we've got in place in the parish related to it.
And the other thing to mention quite a lot is succession planning. So each standard obviously is just there's a line there of succession planning. Are we looking at that, and looking at the profile of the service as we go forward, or not?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And if you were to draw on the HMI report, there's a focus there too. So we have got really robust now workforce planning, and again, a differentiate between succession planning and workforce planning. So we very rarely see planning going off the run because we've got the requisite number of firefighters to be able to sustain that. We have 99.8 or something in regards to the numbers, and that's workforce related. When you look at succession planning, what we've built in now to our functional planning process is that when a member of the team sits down to put their functional plan together, what they will also align to that is a succession plan. So they will look at, this is what I intend to deliver over the next 12 months, and have I got the team to be able to deliver that, or are there any concerns around my ability to deliver that over the course of this next 12 months? So do we need to now start to consider replacing individuals who we perceive to be moving on, or developing individuals who are in a team a little bit further. So we have now got really robust succession planning arrangements in place. What the HMI said at the time was, yes, we know you've got those arrangements, but it's still too early to tell how effective they are. So we're now 12 months into that succession planning process, and it goes into our functional plan process.
Building up on prevention on page 41, number 2, it says about this person-centered approach. And one of the main concerns with me about identifying this is about people who vote and the issues. So, and the issues that we've had within Merseyside, the fatal fires that were out in Allison, and the fact that we don't have any powers to do that, is that something that will be picked up?
I think it's not so much a national standard, that is it? That is a primary legislation.
But that's it. So they're asking us to do something that we can't actually functionally do it. We don't have the powers of the local authorities.
It's like you want to do lots of things that may that is the case, and now multi-agency response to a particular set of circumstances. And actually, if you look at that specific under the prevention standard and intervention, the Commons being very supportive over the approaches that we've adopted, and we have agreements with all of the local authorities around how we would deal with that kind of cause for concern. But ultimately, some of the stuff comes down to definitions around capacity of the individual, and it's all defined by the fact that an Englishman or a woman's home is their castle, and they can determine what happens in there. So it's very, very difficult for us to just cross the threshold without being invited into some property to put an intervention in place. However, we do use all of the legislative powers to be able to ensure the safety of the people and the well-being of the people surrounding that property. Not that dissimilar to some of the stuff around the built environment. So high-rise risk and new emerging premises where we will have to work as a multi-agency team with the likes of the health and safety executive, the regulators, and so on. So we have some powers, they have some powers, and it's how we apply them collectively. I think the most important point of it is that we know and understand each other's powers, and we share a purpose and a view that we're here to protect the public and make them safe, and then we do that consistently. And sometimes it doesn't always feel like that, but we are far better in the emergency side than probably most of the authorities are in relation to the multi-agency response.
And this is why we need a Fire Safety Services Act. There's a number of things like mandatory evacuation orders. I'm staying in this house and look after in Paris. I'll put the lives of firefighters at risk, in this disaster. There's lots of stuff there that need modernising. This is lots of that.
It's just, obviously, the suite of standard that we're relying on. Will this have an impact on our business?
There's nothing in the standards, if I'm being blunt, that we shouldn't be doing anyway. So, in a nicely possible way, all it does is gives us a guide to, if you've got these things in place, you can deliver a really high standard fire rescue service. So, whilst, like anything else, to deliver things at a high standard, needs to have a requisite level of budget to be able to facilitate that. If you put into our prevention budget, by way of example, then you probably envisage that our outstanding prevention services will become good or worse. And so a suitable and sufficient budget allows you to deliver against the standards without a shadow of a doubt. But there's nothing in the standards which I say at this moment in time, as it stands, as a new burden placed on us. It's just a responsibility that lies with us that we should be delivering.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Here we are. The recommendation is on page 25. Behind you on the screen if you need it. But it's set out there right on page 25. Would that be agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. So we go on to 5, which is the end of year report, so to speak, on overview and scrutiny, which is on pages 67 to 72. Mr. Ria? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. This report is to provide members with an update of the scrutiny conducted by the Scrutiny Committee throughout this municipal year. The current scrutiny forward work plan 2023 to 2025 was agreed by members at the authority meeting in October last year. As a result, the Scrutiny Committee were presented with topics from that plan in the 3 meetings they held. As the report details, members were presented with the annual Health, Safety and Welfare Report 2022 to 2023, which focused on injuries at work, road traffic collisions and near misses, and there was also some benchmarking. A detailed presentation was also provided to members on the response to wildfires, and this is part of the scrutiny to do with the environmental impact. And I'm aware that this presentation led to members of the committee reaching out to the National Tactical Advisor to go back and present to their relevant areas. Members were also presented with the topic of staff sickness, focusing on the last 3 years. This resulted in a task and finish group being established, which particularly focused on 2 areas that impacted long-term sickness absence. That was musculoskeletal injuries and mental health. The outcome of the task and finish group is detailed in paragraph 10 on page 69 of the report. At the last meeting of the Scrutiny Committee, they were presented with the actions undertaken from the last staff survey held in 2022 and the outcomes thereof in anticipation of the next staff survey to be held later this year. At the same meeting, members were also updated on the ongoing trial of hybrid working adopted within the service and the feedback to date from staff and how it is working and where it may go in the future. Members of the Scrutiny Committee are reminded at every committee meeting that the Scrutiny Forward Work Plan will always remain a live document, so it can be added to at any point throughout the year. Happy to take any questions.
I mean, Ryan, James and I believe that this is for the Scrutiny Committee members to determine their own work plan. Occasionally, the authority, leadership, if you like, will refer potential areas of work, of review. It's generally our critical work. It's generally the things which are operational and reputational for the committee to consider in its work programme. So I'm very much open to members.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for the report there. But at the last meeting, I did ask that we look at battery life, because these 10-year batteries that are coming. I've got liquid gas in my property for my husband, and
Oh,
the last.
Your husband.
He's sick of me going on. What they did say to me, it's only 18 months ago that they put these batteries in. Firefighters came from New Wells and they put the batteries in, and they lasted 18 months. So if we're paying a company to make these batteries for us, we should be getting more out of them.
Chair, I'm happy to comment and Dave do also as lead on the mention. Like anything else, there's probably some smoke alarms out there where they've lasted 12 years rather than 10 years, funnily enough, and dependent on circumstances. Sometimes there's extreme cold weather, the battery is drawn on quite quickly, they start to alarm. And also I'd say is, those are things that we continually look to develop with the provider of our smoke alarms, and we do monitor the the product in regard to what we purchased and what we expect it to deliver. And if it doesn't, then we would no longer procure from them. They know that too. And as it stands, as I probably deliver more own safety interventions than any other fire rescue service and population anywhere in the country. So smoke alarm providers, want to continue to work with us and want to ensure that the product that provider works with is fit for purpose. But all I would say, certainly from yourself, Councillor, and any other member of Merseyside, that if the battery goes on the smoke alarm, then you just get back in touch with us and we will go out and we will replace the smoke alarm. Then we will take the responsibility of analysing how long it's been utilised for, and then that will draw us into account a further conversation with the smoke alarm provider. So we do that quality assurance and that due diligence around how the product is performing, because then the next phase of our procurement would kind of consider those factors in regards to how that smoke alarm is performing in the kind of context of what we agreed it would deliver for communities of Merseyside.
I think we'd just like to thank the officers who were involved with the sickness and absence. I think that the way that we asked them to the task, we asked them to go away and get the information and the data was really important to the floors. And it sort of highlighted, because the big questions asked by members in the past, like about the sickness and absence levels and the way that still above the average of where we were left. And two of the main issues that was highlighted was obviously the mental health issues and the musculoskeletal. And the way that's actually being undertaken to try and address that. We know the two different areas, so that's what we talked about control, but we're confident that the occupational health and the health and wellbeing manager understand what needs to be done as good as ready we possibly can, and get information from other fire and rescue services across the country and the chief fire council, and anywhere that could help us, because I suppose it's similar with any sort of organisation in fire and rescue sector. But the main concern, I suppose, was the musculoskeletal, because of that sort of muscles, joints, wear and tear, basically. And we asked about the age brackets of that, impacts on people, obviously it's going to impact on people more older as they go on, because and one of the things that was suggested about the firefighters now being asked to work till the age of 60, and how that's going to impact on the service and also those individuals, and whether that decision was the right decision to be taken. And I think if that information is collected on a national basis, I think that's what was the LGA to look at, to investigate that and scrutinize to see. And if there is, then how do we address it? What can we do to make it easy? It's probably that type of condition that is difficult, but I think it's whatever the evidence that we gain, I think it will be beneficial for any future governments to take on board these devices of when we look at this sort of age limit of firefighters.
And just remind anything we said really in regards to the gathering of data to inform kind of future practice. It happens to a greater or lesser degree from a National Fire and Rescue Service perspective around absence, reasons for absence, doesn't necessarily translate that into a piece of work that they are now looking at from a National Fire Service Council perspective, and fitness and assessment of fitness, attendance to that fitness. And so, that is absolutely noted, and I will pick that up again and re-emphasise that point back in nationally. In regards to the welfare arrangements that we put in place in Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service, they are incredible. They are really good. And we there's a whole raft of care for our staff. Even at the extent of some of the things that we would see on fire stations, the gyms that we provide, firefighting facilities are amazing. But the fire stations are amazing. But the gyms that we provide for firefighters to maintain their level of fitness and to be able to take the role is fantastic. And the authority and do allocate time for people to train in the right place to be able to maintain that. So as far as the really practical steps that we are taking, I think we are doing a really good job, and the authority are doing a really good job in relation to support from our staff, maintaining their levels of fitness to the completion of their career. I can say that because I'm approaching 55, so the fact of the matter is I'm still get round the block. So, but very much dedicated on being looked after by the service and the authority in regards to the well-being of our staff. So we're doing as much as we can, whether it was like decisions governmentally is really not for us to comment on, but also the fact that we will continue to have those conversations about getting that data set in, which will inform future practice.
Someone's just seen 55 already. Never again.
Going back to what Phil said, could we not get some people to come in and talk about mental health to the staff? Because people might have mental health, but don't even come forward because it's stigma against it. I think it's someone to come in and talk about it to all the staff. People might say, I felt like that yesterday, or I didn't feel well last week. I think that would be a good idea to bring somebody in.
Yeah. That's right. What I would say is we do that stuff, and again, it may well be where we do mental health first aid course, right? And again, I'm not suggesting that Kelly comes and delivers the whole course to members of the authority, but I think a presentation around the level of support we provide to our firefighters, particularly for our wider staff, absolutely may be useful to give you a sort of insight into that. What we have is some of the things that we go through are quite challenging. And so we have post-incident activities around debriefing and diffusion, which are well practiced and really focused in on operational staff. So it's not just the operational staff that are affected in the workplace either. And we have a whole multitude of training which is associated with that. Mental health first aid, blue light champions, so we have individuals that someone can go to sort of around their mental health concerns if they've got some. But I do think there's real value in maybe getting Kelly leads on that workforce to talk about the breadth of the work that we do. We've got an employee assistance program with individuals who, and their families, by the way, and I have to check with extensive authority members can refer into the employee assistance program for assistance and help around mental health and wellbeing. And And the reason why we extend it to the family, because sometimes if your son, daughter, or loved ones have a bad time, it impacts on you and in the workplace. So we're pretty good at it, but I think, given the question, I think it would be legitimate for us to come back and go into a bit more detail about the breadth of the work that we do around that and well-being.
We have put a bit of time to this. We did have a session with members. Did you do the blue light mental health awareness?
Yeah, it was a 3-day course, I think, a few years ago.
It was,
I think Jan was on that as well.
there was quite a bit of training for it.
Very good. Yeah.
And well received. And also we've done a little bit of training about triggers. You talk to the firefighters, sit around the table and say, well, what's your buddy? What's your oppo? Look out for signs that they're not talking anymore. They're not as bright. They're moody. And these could be the early indicators of some sort of trauma, mental, that they've gone through and need to work with that. So a double-edged, everyone's got to work as a team. We as members have to be part of that team. And then giving people the experience and opportunities to self-diagnose almost the issues with colleagues. We as an authority have put a very high priority on mental health issues, the invisible injury.